The Egyptian Gazette, the Middle East's oldest English-language newspaper, first appeared on the 26th of January in 1880. It was set and printed in Alexandria as a 4-page weekly tabloid founded by 5 Britons, including Andrew Phillip as editor and Moberly Bell, who later became the London Times managing editor. From the very start, the Egyptian Gazette was determined to present to the small but growing British community news of the day, and also to cover everything that was of interest to this community. That was a promise the founders made to the readers in the first issue's front page.
A daily newspaper established by 5 Englishmen in 1880. Its main goal was to pave the way for the British colonialism. It was the first defender for the affairs of the British community living in Egypt. It is a parcel part of Egypt's history, if we record it. The Gazette had been published by the English. It was the mouthpiece of the British colonialist.
During the First World War, the Egyptian Gazette faced a major problem when many of its young staff members had to leave and join the British forces. In addition to this, printing became extremely expensive. But perseverance kept the newspaper going. Since it was first established, the Egyptian Gazette has been coming out on regular basis, except on 3 occasions. The first was a result of a daring leading article, which criticized the British authorities for the second deportation of Saad Basha Zaghloul, leader of the national movement, and his associates. This article was published on the 21st of December 1921. The newspaper was suspended under martial law for 2 days. Then it reappeared without a leading article for several weeks. This was an act of protest.
During the First and Second World Wars, the Egyptian Gazette was the most reliable source of information. British newspapers, such as The Times and many others, quoted the Gazette because it was the only newspaper that ran fresh stories from the Egyptian battlefields in Al Alamein, as well as the Libyan and North African war fronts.
Just before the Second World War, the Egyptian Gazette was passed to the ownership of Société Orientale de Publicité, in which Mr. Oswald Finney, a wealthy British businessman, was the major shareholder. This tie-up meant that the Egyptian Gazette became associated with another English-language newspaper, the Egyptian Mail, which was established in 1914 and owned by Société Orientale de Publicité. From then on, the 2 publications shared the English-speaking market. The Egyptian Mail appeared in the morning and the Egyptian Gazette in the evening.
The Mail is a weekly newspaper, returning back to the beginnings of 1914. It copes with the policy of the Egyptian Gazette.
On the 23rd of July in 1952, the Egyptian Revolution took place. Ultra-nationalists lobbied to close down the Egyptian Gazette and other foreign language publications in view of their colonial past. However, the more prudent circles were in favor of Egyptianizing these publications. Debate continued for about 2 years, and finally, in May of 1954, Société Orientale de Publicité's ownership was ceded to Al Tahrir Printing and Publishing House, the Egyptian Gazette's present owner. Both the Egyptian Gazette and the Egyptian Mail were for the first time under the authority of an Egyptian editor-in-chief, Dr. Amin Abul Anin.
The Egyptian Gazette has been the only available source for any historian or researcher who is interested in the period from 1880 to 1952. For example, the news of the British Embassy in Cairo were only relayed by the Gazette. The paper reported the British mandate, the 1936 treaty, as well as the whole period of the British occupation of Egypt accurately, but with a little bit of bias because it was run by Britishers since its inception 130 years ago.
المرحلة اللي كانت فيها مصر تحت المستعمر.
كان برضو الثورة عندها من الذكاء.
When the 1952 revolution broke out, the free officers led by Gamal Abdel Nasser who expelled the British and Arabized the schooling system were smart enough to keep the Gazette going and continue its journalistic role.
مجلس قيادة الثورة أصر على أن تستمر.
The Revolution Command Council wanted the Gazette to be the mouthpiece of the revolution, especially in the US and Britain, the former occupier of Egypt.
خاصة أمريكا وبريطانيا اللي هي كانت الدولة المحتلة سابقا.
في الخمسينات وعلى وجه التحديد عام 54.
In the 50s, precisely in 1954, the year after which الجمهورية was established, التحرير Publishing and Printing House was created to collect الجمهورية, the Gazette, Le Progrès, and El Messa newspapers. The Gazette became the official mouthpiece of the Egyptian government.
Mr. Abu al-Ainain passed away in September of 1978. He was succeeded by Mr. Ramez al-Halawani, and upon his resignation in 1980, Mr. Sami Shahid took over until 1989. He was followed by Mr. Muhammad al-Izabi, who steered the helm of the Egyptian Gazette until 1991. Then Mr. Muhammad Ali Ibrahim became the editor-in-chief and held the editorship until July of 2005. The Egyptian Gazette's current editor-in-chief is Mr. Ramadan Abdel Qadir.